today. We're entering the gates here of Duke. My friend here up in front. And we're headed over here to the stadium. We're not too bad regards to time.
Remembering that we are here today because of the gifts, the sacrifices of these wonderful parents, benefactors, educators who have gone before us. Make us in our proceedings here today worthy of their gifts and your praise. And thanks to these, our noble graduates, and continued blessings of them and our university, we pray. Amen.
Georges Ballandier, sociologist, anthropologist, Africanist, interpreter of modernity, you have been in the forefront of our concerns about the developing world. An intellectual and writer of note in post-World War II France, you decided to pursue training in anthropology. You did your field research in Africa at a time when many former French African colonies were establishing their independence. And you became one of the first to examine these societies from a point of view from within the context of their experience of the colonial situation. Thus, you became a pioneer of a new brand of African studies and an intellectual champion of the third world, an idea and a term which you helped to bring into our everyday vocabulary and our everyday understanding. Your unprecedented interpretation of the dynamics of change in developing countries altered the very framework of sociological theory. In 1962, the French Minister of Education named you to the newly created chair of Sociology of Black Africa at the Sorbonne in recognition of your extraordinary work. Through 4 decades, you have been a prolific author and researcher, widely recognized for your scholarship. Influential beyond the boundaries of your own country and your own language, you have educated generations of students from all over the world who today are themselves distinguished social scientists. Duke University is proud to honor you, for through your persistent and original voice, questioning and challenging colonialism, you brought to the West the invaluable and enriching fruits of your own deep engagement with Africa. By the authority vested in me, I confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Humane Letters, and I admit you to its rights, its privileges, and its obligations.
Mr. President, I have the pleasure to present the name of Gertrude B. Allion, candidate for the honorary degree of Doctor of Science. The nomination has been approved by the faculties of the university and by the Board of Trustees. Professor Henry Friedman, her faculty sponsor, will kindly escort the candidate to the podium.
Gertrude B. Allion, Nobel laureate, scientist, pioneer, teacher, you have dedicated your life to research that has saved the lives of millions of people and improved the lives of countless others. the childhood loss of your grandfather spurred your quest for the knowledge that might lead to a cure for cancer. Although you graduated Phi Beta Kappa from Hunter College and earned a master's degree in chemistry from NYU, your pursuit of a doctorate was discouraged when the university you were attending part-time required that you quit your job as a cancer investigator at the Wellcome Research Laboratories. Deciding instead to persevere in your work, you compiled a remarkable 40-year record of scientific discovery, leading to the development of drugs used in the treatment of leukemia, malaria, gout, herpes, and AIDS, and also the critical drug which blocks the body's rejection of foreign tissue. Today, thousands of people who have had successful organ transplants owe their lives to you. In 1988, you shared the Nobel Prize for Medicine in recognition of the part you have played inaugurating a new era in drug research. Although officially retired, you have continued your work as teacher, mentor, and inspiration for an entire new generation of investigators, instilling in them your own passion for science. Duke University is therefore proud to honor you for your pioneering development of a new approach to drug research, for your role in combating life-threatening illnesses, and for your dedication and service to humanity. By the authority vested in me, I confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Science, and I admit you to its rights, its privileges, and its obligations.
Mr. President, I have the great pleasure to present the name of Eleanor Kutry-Smeal, who is a candidate for the honorary degree of Doctor of Laws. The nomination has been approved by the faculties of the university and by the Board of Trustees. Professor Jean F. O'Barr, the faculty sponsor, will kindly escort the candidate to the podium.
Eleanor Kutry-Smeal, public servant, women's advocate, distinguished alumna. You work for the equal representation of women in American life and a more just society for all. A Phi Beta Kappa graduate of the Women's College of Duke University, you went on to earn a master's degree from the University of Florida. When both your doctoral studies and your life were interrupted by illness, you began reading the history of women's struggles for equal rights. You emerged from your personal ordeal a committed activist. You worked for daycare in your community. You worked for equal educational opportunity in your state. Then, in 1977, you were elected president of the National Organization for Women, the largest member-based organization for women's rights in the world. From this position of national influence, you became the preeminent leader of the American women's movement, expanding it to a broader constituency and a wider range of issues. For 2 decades, you have spoken out in every area of public policy affecting women. You identified the gender gap in the voting booth and transformed contemporary political analysis. Through your speeches, writings, and congressional testimony, you have alerted our society to the importance of women in political life and the changing needs of the American family. Duke University is proud to honor you, for unlike public leaders who represent a regional constituency, you represent an idea, the idea that the body politic suffers when it does not utilize all of its wealth, and that women are one of its most important and neglected resources. By the authority vested in me, I confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Laws, and I admit you to its rights, its privileges, and its obligations.
Dear Mr. President, I have the deep and great pleasure to present the name of Dr. Charles D. Watts, who is a candidate for the honorary degree of Doctor of Science. The nomination has been approved by the faculties of the university and by the Board of Trustees. Dr. Saveston, his faculty sponsor, will kindly escort the candidate to the podium.
Charles D. Watts, physician, medical educator, respected leader of our community, you have served humanity through your profession and fought many battles for what is right. A graduate of Morehouse College, you earned your MD at Howard University, where you completed your surgical residency under the late Professor Charles Drew, a distinguished black academic surgical leader. In 1950, you came to Durham, North Carolina, bringing not only your medical skills, but also your wisdom and your vision for a better life for all our citizens. As the first board-certified black surgeon in North Carolina, you became a key leader in the advancement of the African American community in the fields of medical education and medical research, and a major contributor to the shaping of medical services in our city and our state. In the 1960s, you stormed the civic barricades of segregation with quiet determination, great good humor, and a call for mutual respect. In 1970, as the founding father of the Lincoln Community Health Center, you had the courage to fight for the health needs of an underserved population that would have remained very much at risk, save for your intervention at a critical time. Through public-spirited membership on innumerable boards and commissions, you have influenced race relations and deeply affected your community and your state. You have improved the lives of thousands of individuals, and you have inspired all who have worked beside you. Duke University is proud to honor you for your humanitarian achievements in improved health care, your significant contributions to medical education, and your courageous pursuit of equality for all Americans. By the authority vested in me, I confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Science, and I admit you to its rights, its privileges, and its obligations.
Mr. President, I have the pleasure to present the name of George Bill, who is a candidate for the honorary degree of Humane Letters. This nomination has been approved by the faculties of the university and by the Board of Trustees. Professor Fleischman, his faculty sponsor, will escort the candidate to the podium.
George F. Will, Pulitzer Prize-winning columnist, passionate voice of reason, astute commentator on all things human, from politics to baseball. You help us to think clearly about ourselves and our world. Following your graduation from Trinity College, Hartford, from Oxford University's Magdalen College, and from Princeton University with a doctorate in politics, you set yourself on a professional path of remarkable distinction. That path has taken you through positions on distinguished university faculties and service to United States Senator, to your present work as a widely respected, nationally syndicated columnist, contributing editor of Newsweek magazine, and a regular panelist on ABC's This Week with David Brinkley. In an era of public leaders who chart their paths by the latest opinion poll, and of journalists whose views are too often predictably homogenized, you refresh our spirits with insights from the fields of philosophy, history, literature, economics, and practical politics, from fields that together comprise the liberal and the liberating arts. You awaken our intellects with a mind that is never closed. You insist on the moral questions beyond every political issue. You express your thoughts with a wit sometimes withering, but more often gentle, and with an elegance that marks you as one of the contemporary masters of English prose. Duke University is proud to honor you as one who, by refusing to leave any aspect of American life unexamined, helps to shape public discourse and enrich public understanding. By the authority vested in me, I confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Humane Letters, and I admit you to its rights, its privileges, and its obligations. It is now my great pleasure to ask you to join me in welcoming our commencement speaker, the recipient of the Pulitzer Prize for Distinguished Commentary, Dr. George F. Will.
Dr. Brady, members of the Board of Trustees, honored guests, ladies and gentlemen, and most of all, members of the class of 1990. It is for me a particular thrill to be back in Durham, the location of a venerable institution that has held the interest of millions of Americans from coast to coast. I refer, of course, to the Durham Bulls. It is a measure of my desire to be here that I don't want to, as we say in journalism, commit the principal sin of journalism, which is to bury the lead. That is, not get to the main point in the first paragraph. The main point of today's ceremonies is well done, the class of 91. So eager have I been to come here to say that, I have put the nation in jeopardy. It is Sunday morning, and back in Washington I have left unsupervised Sam Donaldson. But it is a great privilege for me to stand here, briefly, I promise you, as the last lecturer you must endure. Brevity is not only the soul of wit, it is polite on occasions such as this. The air is warm, the sun is threatening to become bright, you are swathed in black, and here I stand, 4 years too late, about to lay down the law about what students should study and why. Commencement speakers often say somberly that graduates are bidding goodbye to campus tranquility and entering the real world's turbulence. But lately, some of society's stresses have come to campuses, including this one. Duke's class of 1991 can be forgiven for feeling that in recent years the ivory tower has been topped by battlements. So deservedly great is Duke's stature, its disputes resonate far beyond its broad lawns. Indeed, there is in several senses a national interest in the great debate in which Duke partakes concerning academic policies. So today I want to tread gingerly onto that dark and bloody ground. I do so respectfully. I am a former professor and the son of one. And I am respectful of this magnificent institution which has earned its eminence. And I am most respectful of the complexity of the academic disputes that have of late enlivened life at Duke and elsewhere. Now, the adjective academic is often used as a dismissive synonym for inconsequential, as in the phrase, the point is of only academic interest. And it is often said that the bitterness of academic politics is inversely proportional to the stakes, that what happens on campuses does not matter much out there in the real world. But history, ladies and gentlemen, is the history of mind. You are what you read. Ideas have consequences. Indeed, only ideas have lasting consequences. Therefore, the quality of our national life reflects, after a very short lag, the quality of thinking on campuses. Conditions on some campuses today call to mind a tombstone that actually exists in a churchyard in rural England, the stone on which there is a simple 6-word epitaph. It says, "I told you I was sick." Duke, I hasten to say, is not sick. The vigor of Duke's arguments suggests not anemia, but robustness. Indeed, it has been your good fortune, you of the class of 1991, to be present here for arguments that clarify the nature not only of the academic enterprise, but also of the American experiment. Now, every sermonette, such as mine here today, should pick some cogent thought to construe. My thought today comes from a great giver of advice, the poet Robert Frost. Frost once said, "Don't join too many gangs. Join few, if any. join the United States, and join the family, but not much in between unless a college. That advice, like the man who proffered it, is quintessentially American. It is very American in its general injunction in favor of individualism and against excessive joining, against defining oneself too much by group affiliations. It is also especially American in its inclusion of an institution of higher education along with the family and the nation in a trinity of essential allegiances. Why did Robert Frost say that? Because universities are entrusted with nothing less than a task central to America's identity and success. Theirs is the task of transmitting the best of the West, the culture of our civilization, to successive generations who will lead America, which is, I do passionately believe, the most successful expression of that civilization. We are, as Lincoln said at Gettysburg, a nation dedicated to a proposition. There is a high idea content in American citizenship. It is a complicated business, this being an American. We are all a bit like Jay Gatsby, made up by ourselves. But we are not made up of randomly aggregated moral and intellectual materials. Rather, we are made up of moral and intellectual materials that have been winnowed by time and must be husbanded by universities. By decisions about what schools should do, about what we shall study and read, by those decisions we define our polity. This is why, for nearly 2 centuries, America's primary and secondary schools have always been cockpits of religious and ethnic conflicts. What is now occurring on campuses is an episode in the unending American drama of adjusting the rights of the individual and the rights of the community. Individuals have a broad right to study and teach what they wish, up to a point. Remember that forward phrase, up to a point. The point is set in part by the community's right to perpetuate itself. Lincoln said, "A house divided against itself cannot stand." It is equally true that a society unaware of itself, with no consensus about its premises and purposes, cannot endure. In Lincoln's day, a collision of 2 clear and diametrically opposed premises nearly proved fatal to America. Today, there is a potentially fatal idea in circulation. It is the idea that there should not be, in this pluralist society, a core culture passed on from generation to generation. Now, to those who say we are threatened by a suffocating hegemony of Western civilization's classic works, I say, if only that were the problem. The real danger is not cultural hegemony, but cultural amnesia and the concomitant balkanization of the life of the mind. I just used a verb derived from a proper noun, the verb to balkanize. That verb was born in the sorrows of the Balkan nations in that unhappy European region where, it was said, more history was produced than could be consumed locally. The First World War, and hence most of this century's horrors, began in the Balkans where fragmentation was contagious. Today there is ample evidence of the balkanization of America's intellectual life. This balkanization begins with the assertion that any syllabus composed of traditional classics of Western civilization will underrepresent certain groups, racial, sexual, ethnic, or class-based groups. Well now, are the great works of Western civilization primarily products of social elites? Yes, of course. That is so for many reasons, including the fact that these works come to us from centuries where literacy itself was an elite attainment. But it is fallacious to argue that therefore these works perpetuate an oppressiveness that is allegedly the essence of Western civilization. Some people who fancy themselves intellectually emancipated, who think themselves liberated from what they consider a stultifying cultural inheritance, are in fact, I suggest, far from free. They actually reside in the clean, well-lit prison of one idea. Today's imprisoning idea is philosophically primitive and empirically insupportable. It is that any humanities text merely reflects its social context and thus should be read as a political document. Now, too often the meaning of the crucial word reflects disappears in a mist of imprecision. Usually the assertion that a text reflects its context is either trivially true or flagrantly false. It is trivially true if it means only that the text, like its author, stands in some relation to the setting in which the author wrote. But it is false if it means that any text should be construed politically, with politics understood crudely as mere power relations of domination and submission in the era in which the author wrote. Such thinking causes the study of humanities texts to become a subdivision of political history and to be studied as sociology. This reduction of the arts to social sciences is reverse alchemy, turning gold into lead. This is the result of the imprisoning idea that the nature of everything, from intellectual works to political acts, is determined by race, gender, and class. Alas, any idea, any single idea purporting to be a universal explanation, a comprehensive simplifier of social complexities, requires its adherents to be simple and eventually makes them so. Today's dubious idea also makes its adherents condescending and worse. It is condescending and deeply anti-democratic when intellectuals or others consign blacks or women or ethnics or the working class or any other group to confining categories, asserting that they can be fully understood as mere reflections of their race, sex, or class, and that members of these groups have the limited consciousness supposedly characteristic of those groups. The root of this mischief is the assertion, the semantic fiat really, that everything is political. Now, if the word political is used to describe any choice or judgment involving values, then political becomes a classification that no longer classifies. One cannot say it too emphatically. Not all value judgments are political judgments. It is not a political judgment that certain works have, in fact, contributed mightily to the making of our civilization and hence must be known if we are to know ourselves. It is not a political judgment that certain books have demonstrated the power down the generations to instruct us in history, irony, wit, tragedy, pathos, and delight. Education is an apprenticeship in those civilized and civilizing passions and understandings, and not all texts are equal as teachers. We must husband our highest praise, as Karl Marx did. Marx celebrated the art of Greek antiquity, not because it had a proletarian origin. It did not. Good night, Karl. A metaphor. But in fact, because it, that is the art of Greek antiquity, transcended and indeed set and met standards that themselves transcend particular classes or cultures. The legacy of Western thought is a mind capable of comprehending and valuing other cultures while avoiding the nihilism that says all cultures are incommensurable and hence of equal merit. Sensible people rejoice at the chance to study another culture's Rousseau or Cervantes or Dickens, but education is too serious a matter to become a game of let's pretend, a ritual of pretending that enduring works of the humanities are evenly distributed throughout the world's cultures. We want to be able to imaginatively enter and empathize with other cultures, but we must live in our own. And our own is being injured by some academic developments that impede understanding. We see on campuses the baneful habit of joining what Robert Frost would have considered too many gangs and the wrong sort of gangs. We see the spread of intellectual gerrymandering, carving up curricula into protected enclaves for racial, sexual, and ethnic groups. Often this is done on the condescending premise that members of these groups have only a watery individuality, that they only have derivative identities derived from membership in victim groups. The premise of this analysis is that Western civilization has a disreputable record consisting primarily of oppression and exploitation, that Western civilization has been prolific only in producing victims. That idea leads in turn to the patronizing notion that members of a victim group are disadvantaged unless taught by members of their own group and unless they study works by group members. Otherwise, or so the theory goes, members of that group will lack self-esteem, an attribute which is presumed to be a condition for, not a result of achievement. This sort of thinking promotes envy, resentment, suspicion, aggression, self-absorption, and ultimately separatism. It is, I believe, a non sequitur to say that because America is becoming more diverse, university curricula must be balkanized. Actually, America's increasing diversity increases the importance of universities as transmitters of the cultural legacy that defines and preserves national unity. Some policies advanced today in the name of diversity might better be associated with a less agreeable word, fragmentation. Some policies instituted in the name of multiculturalism are not celebrations of the pluralism from which American unity is woven. Some of those policies are capitulations. They involve withdrawal from the challenge of finding and teaching common ground on which Americans can stand together. Not little patches of fenced-off turf for irritable groups, but the common ground of citizenship in the nation which is one of the good gangs of which Robert Frost spoke. Many of today's balkanizing policies are motivated by an admirable desire to show sensitivity to the feelings of particular groups. Sensitivity is a good thing. But remember, the four most important words in political discourse are up to a point. Armies, police, taxation, even freedom and equality are good only up to a point. In the context of today's disputes on campuses, sensitivity is good up to a point. What is not good is the notion that sensitivity about one's own opinions generates for oneself an entitlement not to be disagreed with or otherwise offended, or that the only way to prove one's sensitivity is by subscribing to a particular political agenda. Some critics complain that a traditional curriculum built around the canon of great works of the Western mind necessarily reinforces authority and docile acceptance of existing arrangements. But these critics, some of whom fancy themselves radicals, could take lessons in real radicalism from many of the writers of those classic works. Virtually every radicalism was anticipated in Plato's Inquiries. No person more radical than Machiavelli ever put pen to paper. Machiavelli, who's The Prince, became the handbook for modern masterless men and women who are obedient only to the rules they write for themselves. 4 years after The Prince was written, Martin Luther nailed his 95 Theses to a church door, asserting the primacy of private judgment, of conscience. There is a golden thread of magnificent radicalism connecting that white German theologian to his namesake, a black American minister in America. A thread connecting Luther's 95 Theses and Dr. King's letter from a Birmingham jail. Do not try to tell the deposed tyrants of Eastern Europe that study of the central figures of American civilization inculcates subordination to the status quo. Europe's recent revolutions against tyranny were fueled by the words of American presidents, particularly the 3rd and the 16th, Jefferson and Lincoln. There is today a warm-hearted idea that every academic activity must contribute to the reforming of society by assuaging this or that group's grievances. This idea leads to the fracturing of the community into antagonistic groups, to the drowning of individuality in groupthink, to the competitive cultivation of group grievances, and to the subordination of education to political indoctrination. In short, some good intentions can have bad educational results. Today's complacent judgment that American education is healthier than it seems is is akin to Mark Twain's jest that Wagner's music is better than it sounds. I remember recently in Maryland, where I live, someone running for the school board and an ad on the radio saying complacently that if he were elected to the school board, the schools of Montgomery County, Maryland, would begin to produce Beethovens and Einsteins. I don't know how it is where you folks live, but we in Montgomery County would be pleased if upon leaving school our children had heard of Beethoven. 8 years ago, a national commission stated, for the first time in history of our country, the educational skills of one generation will not surpass, will not equal, will not even approach those of their parents. This disaster is, I think, partly a result of too much educational energy being invested in the pursuit of social goals, which, although arguably worthy, are undoubtedly peripheral to the main mission of schools. Now, fortunately, we need not deplore the education that has been given to the portion of this generation that is privileged to be graduating from Duke. Embarrassing though the fact may be, it is a fact that you of the class of 1991, who may consider the word elitist an epithet, are this day certifiably of the elite. But let me assuage any uneasiness you may feel. Elitism, meaning a disproportionate role in government and society by small groups, is inevitable. The question for any society is not whether elites shall rule, but which elite shall rule. The problem for any democracy is to achieve consent to rule by suitable elites. A university cannot be a democracy, all sail and no anchor, blown about by gusts of fashion and opinion. It must be anchored in the convictions of intellectual leaders who are confident of their authority because they know they stand on the shoulders of giants, those great thinkers, of whose legacy today's teachers are custodians and transmitters. On March 4, 1861, the fabric of America unraveling all around him, Lincoln delivered his first inaugural address. In one of the most felicitous phrases in American rhetoric, he held out the hope that Americans would be summoned back to friendship by the mystic chords of memory. It is always thus. America is always dependent on its collective memory, and universities are the keeper of that flame. Arguments about university curricula are not narrowly, crudely political, but they are, in an important sense, constitutional arguments. They concern how the American mind shall be constituted. And in a democracy, mind is all that ultimately matters because everything rests on the shifting sands of opinion. That is why democracies are in permanent danger and why it is prudent to be pessimistic. Not fatalistic, not resigned to the worst, but pessimistic, alert to the dangers. I subscribe to the Ohio in 1895 theory of history, so named by me for the obscure but illuminating fact that in 1895 in Ohio there were just 2 automobiles, and they collided. The moral, you see, of the human story is that things go wrong more often than they go right because there are so many more ways to go wrong. Truths increase arithmetically, errors increase exponentially. Most new ideas are false, hence most improvements make matters worse. That is why wise people are wary of intellectual fads and are respectful of the received greatness which in an academic context is often called the canon. The nice part about being a pessimist is that you are either being constantly proven right or constantly surprised pleasantly. Duke, I want to stress, is one of life's pleasant surprises. As you have been passing through Duke, Duke has been passing through a fiery furnace of debate, and it, like you, is like steel, stronger for having been tempered by the heat. That is why I predict special success for the class of 1991 and continued greatness for Duke. My life around politics has taught me the hazards of making predictions. When I was at Oxford 30 years ago, the University Press published Volume 3 of Isaac Deutscher's biography of Trotsky. And the Student Marxist Association had for Deutscher a party, and I, they being my kind of people, went round to the party. There I heard Deutscher say quite solemnly this about Trotsky. Deutscher said, "Proof of Trotsky's farsightedness is that none of his predictions have come true yet." Recurring predictions about the final ruin of America's universities have not come true yet, and I wager never will. At least they will not if people like you, the class of 1991, remain supportive and vigilant members of your college community. As alumni, I urge you, remember Robert Frost's advice. Remember, Duke is one of the 3 good gangs to which you should always belong and always be loyal. Your country, your family, your school. Now go forth and have fun. Thank you very much.
Thank you, George. We are most grateful to you for a splendid address and for being with us this morning. It is my pleasure to recognize the Chief Academic Officer of the University, Provost Philip Griffiths.
Mr. President, as Chief Academic Officer of the University, I declare this convocation is now open for the awarding of earned degrees. And as they are called, I invite the deans of the schools and the college to present candidates for the several degrees.
Mr. President, in the program, September and December 1990 graduates who have already received their diplomas are listed separately. 130 are present today and will be standing with the several groups as degrees are conferred. We welcome you back. And now, candidates for the degree of Bachelor of Arts, please rise.
Mr. Provost, I have the honor to present to the President of the University 1,010 students in Trinity College who have completed all requirements for the degree of Bachelor of Arts. These persons have been approved by the faculty and the trustees and are here now to have that ancient and honorable degree conferred upon them. We are deeply proud of all of them. By the authority vested in me, I confer upon you and each of you the ancient and honorable degree of Bachelor of Arts in recognition of this major step toward the role of creative and enlightened citizenship. My congratulations to you.
Candidates for the degree of Bachelor of Science, please stand.
Mr. Provost, I have the honor to present to the President of the University 224 students in Trinity College who have completed all requirements for the degree of Bachelor of Science. These persons have been approved by the faculty and the trustees and are here now to have that ancient and honorable degree conferred upon them. We are deeply proud of all of them. By the authority vested in me, I confer upon you and each of you the degree of Bachelor of Science in recognition of this major step toward assuming the responsibilities of the educated life. Congratulations. seated. Each of our lives has been touched in a special way by the teachers in our elementary and secondary schools who diligently prepared us for our future lives. At this time, I recognize 25 members of this graduating class who have prepared themselves to meet the demands and the challenges of effective teaching. In addition to having qualified for a degree, they have completed the requirements for a standard teaching certificate. Their names are marked on your program, and in order that their achievement may be recognized, I ask them now to rise.
Candidates for the degree of Bachelor of Science in Engineering, please stand.
Mr. Provost, I have the honor to present to the President of the University 185 students in the School of Engineering who have completed all requirements for the degree of Bachelor of Science in Engineering. These persons have been approved by the faculty and the trustees and are here now to have that modern and honorable degree conferred upon them.
By the authority vested in me, I confer upon each of you the degree of Bachelor of Science in Engineering in recognition of your competence in the basic skills of your profession and your commitment to a calling which combines the best of theory and practice. Congratulations to you.
Candidates for the degree of Bachelor of Health Science, please stand.
Mr. Provost, I have the honor to present to the President of the University 37 students in the School of Medicine who have completed all the requirements for the degree of Bachelor of Health Science. These persons have been approved by the faculty and the trustees and are here now to have that degree conferred upon them.
By the authority vested in me, I confer upon you and each of you the degree of Bachelor of Health Science in recognition of your successful completion of studies which have prepared you for a career as physician assistant. I wish you every success as you join the health professions to serve your fellow human beings. Congratulations.
Present these persons to the President of the University. These persons have been approved by the faculty and the trustees and are here now to have these degrees conferred upon them.
Upon those of you who have attained the degree of Master of Divinity, I confer the seal of your high calling to minister to the religious needs of people in all aspects of life. Upon you who have completed the requirements for the advanced degree of Master of Theology, I confer that degree in recognition of your study and research in a particular field of scholarship beyond your graduate professional degree. Congratulations to you.
Juris Doctor and Master of Laws, please rise.
Mr. Provost, I have the honor to present to the President of the University the following outstanding candidates from the School of Law. One candidate for the degree of Master of Legal Studies, 188 candidates for the degree of Juris Doctor, and 46 candidates for the degree of Master of Laws. These persons have been approved by the faculty and the trustees and are here now to have these degrees conferred upon them.
I confer the degree of Master of Legal Studies upon you who have studied the concepts and techniques of the law in order to enrich your professional contributions in other spheres of work. I confer the degree of Juris Doctor upon you who have attained not only professional competence for the practice of law, but also broad preparation to assume leadership in the highest civil and public responsibilities. I confer the degree of Master of Laws upon you who are attorneys and have returned to advance your achievements in legal study and research. My congratulations to all of you.
Now, candidates for the degree Doctor of Medicine, please stand.
Pertaining to their several degrees, and that their names will be forever and proudly borne on the rolls of Duke University. I would like to call your attention to an unusual group of scholars on the basis of a great expenditure of time and effort and the possession of unusual talent. These individuals have qualified for and received today combined degrees of Doctor of Medicine and Doctor of Philosophy. By virtue of their unusual breadth of training, they have unique contributions to make their chosen areas of scholarly research. I ask them to stand now so that we can show our regard for what they have accomplished. Congratulations. I pay special tribute to those students of the graduating classes who have distinguished their careers while at Duke by achieving honors and academic awards. You will see their names and the awards they have earned near the back of the printed program. The names on these pages merit individual attention by all, and especially by parents, friends, and teachers. We recognize these students' achievements with pride and with satisfaction. I shall ask them to stand now so that we can show them our regard for what they have accomplished here at Duke. Those with honors, please stand. And to those who have contributed so much to the success of this class in spiritual achievement and in encouragement and support with worldly goods, on this our special Mother's Day, may I ask first all mothers of graduates to stand. And those who stand in for parents of all our graduates to please rise to be recognized. I call attention in your program to the listing of the names of 19 members of the faculty of the university who have retired since the commencement of 1990 or who are retiring at the end of the present academic year. Here with us this morning are Bernard F. Fetter, Philip C. Pratt of the Department of Pathology, and Dan O. Wyatt, Jr. of the Divinity School. All of these retiring faculty have contributed significantly to the excellence of Duke University through their dedication as teachers, administrators, researchers, and practitioners. To each, we owe a debt beyond measure. I count it a privilege to have been a part in recognizing before this assembly their long careers of distinctive service to this university.
Really?